Hi guys, good morning or good afternoon. I tried to sleep later because every 3 hours I'm being awakened again. The smells in here were horrible. And I believe that's part of the kind of drugging where you don't feel well. It causes headaches, diarrhea, nausea. You can see the swelling. My head hurts today. Aches and pains, the same sort of symptoms that I've been talking about. But today I want to continue this series where we're going with the last video. So in last night they were doing the sort of street harassment. I can't get out. I've tried over and over again. You know, I'm confined. They continue to think that's a joke, and that's funny here. So we'll continue. I can start in my journal today, so I'll read you a little bit of excerpt. I usually start with the date. I usually start in the day. You know, just a regular, these kinds of little, they're inexpensive from Target. You can get them sometimes for 50 cents. Sometimes in the fall, after the kids go to school, they'll usually discount all these kinds of journals. And again, I think I'm going to start the series with Julia Cameron again, because a lot of the chunk of this, I'd like to eventually have it edited, is working on the early years with your memoir. She starts in the first chapter about, I'm recalling it offhand, I don't feel well, but it's going through each decade sort of when you were younger and kind of putting some of that together. And so some of this fits into that, where I kind of categorized my childhood. I had to go back with some of these memories and look at some of this stuff. So it's a little jumbled today, and I'm going to try to get that book out. I really haven't unpacked here, and sort of go through that again so we can get back into the Julia Cameron series, and I think it's really helpful. So if you'd like to journal along, inexpensive journals, and I love, you know, just an inexpensive pen. You know, your mileage may vary. You might like a nicer pen or a nicer journal. I always found that when I first started, just not to make a big deal out of it, just to get it onto the page, because oftentimes you start questioning yourself, or you know, I'm going to wait till I get this pen or this journal, and to not make a big deal of it just keeps you moving with it. So I'll read you my expert for today. For Wednesday, I started this morning, and we have our cup of coffee. So harassed all night. I feel like I've been run over by a truck today. Someone yelled up as they were doing the garbage. I can't get out. I've tried over and over again. They woke me up all night long, and then it was the horrible smells earlier that made me sick and gave me a headache. So this is what they continue to do, the confinement and the coercive control that has been in my life as long as I can remember. 1175, which is my security. I still have to go to small claims. There's a lot of money, but they have repeatedly taken my security. So I sit here thinking about how my ex-husband and this woman, Arlene, and this Jennifer Cernack were friends. They were meeting over there at Kim's Cleaners. This was my first apartment after escaping domestic violence. I had reported it, and they had put me out on the street basically with $700 a month, which everything should have been disclosed and divided, and that's not the way they handled things, and I won't use this video for that. But I got this first apartment. It was an in-law apartment. It was with the Cernacks, and the same sort of dynamic, the same sort of abuse. And these people, this woman was friends with my ex-husband. They were getting together at this Kim's Cleaners and talking about this stuff, or planning this stuff and plotting this stuff with this man that sexually assaulted me. His mother was working there too. So the last tenant, she's told me the story about how she had called the police on him too. So they had called the police on him. She had been going through my garbage too. She went through his, accused him of alcoholism or getting, you know, having too much to drink. I believe he got a DWI. She had also called the police on me. Everything was a scam. She talked me into buying the TV. That was the first time I was first place I had gotten after my divorce. So I got talked into this TV that was a scam. The heat was a scam. There was no heat because the way the house was set up, they said that the heating was run under the slab, and they sort of got, you know, taken on the house, so they couldn't refurbish the whole heating system with this in-law apartment. So they were scamming me. They brought in a broken heater. That didn't work. They were upside down on their mortgage. He was getting more and more violent. It was around the time the Trump Some of these people were talking about insurrection or talking about some of these things. So here I was put out of my home after paying my mortgage, and these people were going to these political meetings. They seemed sexual too. I think they were involved with the swingers club also. They're up there because my mother talked about knowing them too when I got to her house. So, it's a very small village in Broad Almond, but so here they are upside down on their mortgage, and they're all pissed off. He's saying he was brandishing guns. The sheriffs love him. The same thing with my mother. So obviously we have a problem with the sheriffs up there with these extremists. Because obviously, and some of the corrections officers I went to high school with are involved in either pedophilia or these extremist ideas or targeting people that don't fit into the clique up there. And we can get more into that. But this was the first place. They scammed me for the security. I filled out all the paperwork. I repeatedly called the Fulton County Courthouse. They hung up on me, told me that my case wasn't, whatever, this kind of just brushing me away all the time. And then they stole a lot of my legal documents, which happens often when they put you out on the street and they make you homeless. They often steal things like a medication. They've stolen people's wheelchairs. With me, it was constantly stealing evidence and legal documents that I could use to go to court to try to get my security and try to recoup some of the losses, because everything with an apartment like that isn't legal. I found out the hard way, whether it's your cable, whether it's your mail, because they're going through your mail because your mail is an illegal address. So the mail is coming to the main house. This person's going through it. Not only that, but going through your garbage. And there was a whole bunch of other scams too. They vandalized my car. And they had showed up when she called the sheriffs, and they were going to take my car. So here, these people vandalized my car, and I'm the one that, the next place that I rented, they took my car. So we'll continue, guys. Be safe.